All right, a little introduction to genetics and heredity. Genetics is basically the study of genes, variations in genetics, and variations in genes and traits, and the study of heredity, which is the study of how genes are passed down from parent to offspring. So heredity would just look at the actual way that genes are passed, and genetics looks more into how those genes interact, how those genetic variations occur, and why they occur. We looked at a much deeper level. Heredity is more at looking at the traits that are passed on, where genetics looks at the actual genes that are being passed on. So before we get into a whole bunch of stuff over the next couple of videos, we're going to talk about mitosis, meiosis, and how they're different, how they're the same. We're going to talk about asexual and sexual reproduction. We're going to talk about genetic modifications, GMOs, selective breeding. I really think it's important to do the basic understanding of some key words: DNA, genes, and chromosomes. Those three things are mixed up all the time by students and teachers, and I think it's important that we really understand the subtle differences between them and how they're related. Basically, DNA is the smallest building block for genes and chromosomes. So DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is the basic molecule. But that basic molecule can be really small, it's just a small chain of DNA, or it can be a little bigger, which would be a gene, or it can be the entire chromosome, which is made up of a big chain of DNA. So you can see how it can be confusing. So let's break it down. Basic DNA is a sugar backbone with 4 different nucleotides or nucleotides that come together, and that's that double helix that we always see. That's DNA. That's the smallest basic molecule. But that small molecule, when it is put into a specific sequence or a specific chain of DNA molecules, it becomes a gene. And that gene is the basic unit of heredity. Okay? That gene, which is a chain of DNA molecule, tells your body, tells the cells, tells different parts of your body how to make proteins. And it tells where to cut DNA, how to splice DNA together, how many times to replicate that same strand to make proteins. And we believe we can make 1 million different proteins from just 20,000 genes. Okay? So now these genes are found, right, on the chromosomes. Chromosomes are long strands of DNA wrapped around histones, and we can get into that more. But basically, it's a really big chain of chromosome, and that chromosome, there's 2 of them that are linked together. So we have 46 chromosomes, and they are paired, so there's only 23 pairs. 23 times 2 is 46. Each chromosome is made up of a long chain of DNA, and it's wrapped around these histones. And your body actually our cells have to actually unwrap those DNAs before they can break them and resequence them to make even more proteins. So it is kind of complex, but if you just think about it, that DNA is the basic building block that makes genes, and genes are stacked up to make chromosomes, that should be it. Chromosomes are the biggest part of the DNA. It's the whole sequence of DNA. Genes are smaller sequences of DNA, and DNA itself is just the tiny little building blocks of all of those, of big chains of DNA, small chains of DNA. They make up genes, they make up chromosomes. So in recap, it goes DNA, then genes, and then chromosomes. Chromosomes do not change inside us. We always have 46. All humans have 46. Okay, every organism has their own set of chromosomes, and those do not change. What can change is your genetics, right? The genes on those chromosomes that get passed on to the offspring. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about mitosis and meiosis. Have a great day.